Donald Trump was just inaugurated the 47th president of the United States, alongside J.D. Vance becoming the 50th vice president of the United States. Looking ahead to the 2028 presidential election, Senator, now Vice President J.D. Vance, and Governor Gavin Newsom are the front runners for their respective party nominations. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today is my first official prediction for the 2028 election. I don't waste any time here at all. The second Trump got inaugurated, got the model working, got everything up, and this is the first actual official matchup in my series leading up to the 2028 election, with Gavin Newsom being the favorite for the Democrat side. Hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. And if you guys want to see other matchups, comment down below. Looking at the betting odds, J.D. Vance is at about 43% odds to win the betting nomination for the Republican nominee in 2028. You can see he's well ahead of all of his other contenders, with Gavin Newsom basically tied with Josh Shapiro as of right now. Maybe my next video will be about Josh Shapiro. Depends on how the betting odds shake out. But Gavin Newsom has steadily been ahead of Josh Shapiro the entire time. Very possible that Gavin does actually take that spot very, very soon. But looking at the electoral map, we can see here that Donald Trump had an impressive victory in 2024, managed to flip all of the swing states into his column that he had lost from the previous election, and managed to end up flipping the state of Nevada into his column, unlike not winning it in 2016. So he actually picked up Nevada this time in the hypothetical, in the last election. He was actually able to pick up the state of Nevada due to the Hispanic support being at an all-time high for him in this election. So looking at J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom is way different than, a Kamala Harris or a Joe Biden. That type of voter that really gravitates towards the Democrat Party, some of those more, soft, cushiony Democrat, black voters, and a lot of those white college graduates. I think a lot of them are going to shift over to Vance in this election, and I have Vance winning the popular vote by about 4 points against Gavin Newsom as of right now, which I think would happen. I think Vance probably gets about 73, 72 million in the popular vote, and Gavin gets about in the mid 60s. So similar to like Hillary level support. That's kind of what I'm thinking of right now in this very, very moment. But when you actually look and you kind of shake all of these things out, it's very interesting because Utah is still in the safe column, albeit it does shift left by a little bit less than a point. Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, including the 1st Congressional District, are all safe. By the way, my safe margin for everything at this point is actually above 10 points now. So that is going to be my safe category for all of the states going forward. 1 to 5, or basically 1 to 5 is lean, 5 to 10 is likely, anything above 10 is safe, and everything that is below 1 is in the tilt column. Kansas is coming in at a pretty decent number for J.D. Vance, coming in at about 18.4, which is about 2 points redder than what it was in the last cycle. Oklahoma comes in at a safe margin of about 38%. So that's about a 4-point shift in Oklahoma. So really interesting that Oklahoma ends up shifting towards this column. Texas comes in at 14.5 for J.D. Vance. So again, another gain for the vice president here. He ends up gaining a little bit in the state of Texas. He doesn't improve with Hispanics as much compared to Trump. He does do better with Hispanics than Trump does in the last election by like about a point or two. But most of his gains come from white college grads and a lot of black voters. That's kind of where he gains some of his support this cycle, as well as some Asian votes for the most part. And he actually loses ground with non-college whites from Trump. His base, Trump's base with non-college whites, I think is very unique to him. And I mean, yes, Vance will take it. He'll keep most of them, but he is going to erode a couple of those people heading into 2028. Again, Missouri is safe. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia. They all shift right from 2024. some by just a tad bit, some by not a lot. Kentucky doesn't really shift a lot, only just a tad bit. Tennessee only a point to the right. Alabama about 3 points actually. So actually that state shifts a little bit more. Mississippi by 3. Louisiana by 3, Arkansas as of right now, just about only a 1.5 point shift. Missouri about 2 points. So you see like just minimal shifts. It's not anything crazy, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the rules are going to shift massively. No, they're not going to necessarily shift a lot from 2024. Florida moves into the safe column here as well. Like last cycle, 13.1 for Trump in the last election. Vance wins it by 15, so he makes more inroads in the state of Florida. Alaska is also in the safe column at just about 14.7, which is a little bit of a gain in the state of Alaska. So very minimal gains in the red states. Iowa ends up being about 15.1%. For Vance, Trump won it by 13.2, so Vance improves. Ohio ends up being 14.7, so you see a 3-point gain in the state of Ohio for Vance as of right now. So really interesting stuff there. We also see, as of right now, in Maine's first congressional district, that's also going to be like a 15-point win. That's going to move massively into Vance's column. Maine's first is also in that safe Democrat category. California coming in at just 18.9%, slightly closer than the last election. Vance does make some inroads in some of the suburbs in LA. Some parts of LA probably, move to the left, some move to the right. It really depends, but Vance also gains a little bit in those rural areas and some like outer city areas, but overall he keeps his ground. Washington moves just about a point to just a little bit less than a point to the right. Barely 17.5 points for Vance. Harris won it for Gavin Newsom. Harris won the state by 18.2%. Oregon actually stays at the exact same margin as the last election, 14.3% for Newsom. And we see here 14.3 for Harris. So Oregon probably just basically doesn't shift at all. It's a very minimal shift in either direction in the state of Oregon. Colorado is also the same thing, literally just 0.2% to the right, barely even budges. As of right now, Colorado basically stagnates. Republicans are basically maxing out in the state of Colorado. Hawaii, another one, just 17 points in the state of Hawaii for Gavin Newsom, a 6-point shift to the right. And it did shift 6 points this cycle to the right. So definitely the state is trending pretty considerably to the right. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a margin of victory below 20 points for the Democrat candidate heading into the next election. So again, really, really interesting stuff. We also can go over here and see that, for example, Connecticut is in the safe column, albeit still a lot closer. This is where Vance is going to gain the most. Vance is going to gain quite a bit in the Northeast. He gains about 4 points in Connecticut. So Connecticut's like 4 points closer. Massachusetts, he gains about 2 points from 25 points to 23.5. Vermont ends up getting just about a point closer, just barely a point closer as of right now. We also see, looking at Maryland, just 21.8%, which is way closer than Harris's 28.5 win. So a big shift in Maryland is coming there. And we also see, District of Columbia, that's obviously going to be in the safe Democrat column. And as of right now, that is pretty much it for all of these safe states in either direction. These are all of the safe electoral votes for either party as of right now. Looking at the likely states for JD Vance, he picks up North Carolina by 5.2%. So he does make inroads from Trump's win back in 2024. I would assume he'd probably make some gains in the western part of the state and continue the gains in the northeastern part that has significantly becoming more Republican ever since Trump entered politics. So it does shift about 2 points to the right here. State of Georgia ends up shifting into the right column, 4.7% for Vance. So about roughly a 2.5 point gain for JD in the state of Georgia. A lot of those metro areas in Atlanta would probably end up moving Republican due to Vance gaining with the college white vote. Some areas in Atlanta would move more Democrat. I'd assume the inner city actually would, while the metro areas kind of end up moving more into the Republican column. Arizona at 6.5 points, so Vance improves by about 1 point from Trump's margin in the state. Nevada at a whopping 5.4% for Vance here. So you see that come in as well, which is a huge improvement for Vance. He wins it by over 5 points. This would be the first time that a Republican has won the state of Nevada by over 5 points in quite a while. The last time that actually happened was all the way back in basically 1988 when Bush won the state by 21 points. So that was the last time you had a victory in that column. Nixon also won it in 68 by about 8 points. So it's pretty historic to see a margin of over 5 points, in the state of Nevada for a Republican. So that basically shores up the Rust Belt or the Sun Belt for JD Vance, which leaves just one more state in the Rust Belt for Vance to pick off. And in the state of Pennsylvania, JD is winning that by 5.6%, which I think that Pennsylvania is going to become the next Ohio. It's actually voting to the right of North Carolina in this matchup. I very well think Pennsylvania could end up being the next Ohio in the next election. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. There's a lot of room for Republicans to grow in some of the rural areas. Those suburbs continue to move right under the Trump coalition. And I think somebody like Vance would be able to expand, especially in those inner city areas. So that is definitely something that would be very, very interesting. We also see Wisconsin at 3.1% for Vance and Michigan at 4.8%. So we see these large shifts in the Rust Belt towards Vance due to the white college grad vote really shifting into his column. Illinois goes for Gavin by just 9.4%, which is a slight decrease from the last cycle. So again, really interesting to see the state fall under, 10 points. New York, the same thing, just 9.1 for Gavin. He only wins it by 9. That's about a 3 and change point decrease for Gavin. Again, New York City becomes a problem. Vance continues to gain there from Trump. Newsom's turnout is even worse than Kamala Harris in New York City. Some areas in, upstate New York do move left, but overall you would see gains in New York City for JD. We'd also see in a place, for example, like, Rhode Island. You see, actually, Rhode Island is in the safe column at 10.4. I don't know why I missed that, but Delaware is actually the one that is just about a 9.5%. And this is a state that, like, even Radical Politics has mentioned, like, without Trump on the ballot, he suspects that this state would become way more competitive. And it is just below 10 points, and it does shift to the right by 5 points this time around. So really interesting to see that, really take shape here. And we can look at some of these last few states. Virginia, just about 3 points for Gavin. So Gavin does win it by about 3. And again, this is because, those Nova areas are really moving into the Democrat column. Vance does gain in the rural areas slightly, mostly in the southern eastern part of Virginia. But again, those Nova trends are just really killing Republicans. Vance does make some inroads up there, but those suburbs continue to move left in Virginia. The state of New Mexico, 6-point win for Harris, just 1 point for Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom has a disastrous performance in the state of New Mexico and could potentially flip into Vance's column in the near future, depending on how things break. Looking at some of these, other states here as well, you can see, Maine ends up becoming a 4.9 percentage point win, which is about 2 points closer than what it was in 2024. So again, you see that become way more competitive. New Jersey, just 3.8% for Gavin Newsom as well. So that is about right there in that column. And we see here a 5.9 percentage point win for Harris, so 2 points closer in New Jersey as well. And Minnesota ends up staying in the lean column at 2.7 for Gavin. This is the one that I think JD would be able to flip out of all of these, just because Vance does appeal more in the Rust Belt than Trump would. So I think this would be the case as well. Nebraska second also is a really, really big deal. This one does fall in the lean column at just 2.5 points. And the state of New Hampshire comes in at just 2.5 points for Newsom, which is a very narrow shift in the Republican column. It only shifts to the right by 0.3%. Very narrow shift in New Hampshire. New Hampshire basically doesn't budge at all. It literally stays in the lane blue column, just 0.3 percentage points to the right from the last cycle. You know, in New Hampshire, Vance does have a unique appeal in the state, but given its anti-incumbent status, I don't expect the state to really move at all. I think it's going to be one of those states that stays about the same as of right now. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe. If you want more content just like this, comment down below for more matchups, and I will see you guys in the next video.